Hi, it's Mike with AskTractorMike.com. Got a viewer letter today asking about a topic that touches on probably the biggest issue or challenge that your local tractor dealer faces. And if it's not number one, I can almost guarantee you it's in the top three. And I managed a dealership for 11 years, and I know exactly what they're going through, only it's worse now than it was back when I was in the business. Let's get to the viewer letter today. And the letter comes from Phil. And he says, Mike, when looking for a tractor service mechanic, what certification should the mechanic have? Well, Phil is referring to what's common in the automotive industry. And in the automotive world, there's an organization called the National Institute for Automotive Service Excellence, or ASE. And the ASE certifies car mechanics, automotive mechanics. And in order to get even to taking the ASE test, you have to have either 2 years of training and 1 year of practical experience, or 2 years of practical experience, even to take their test. And a lot of first-time people that take the ASE test fail. It's not easy. You got to know your stuff. And all brands use it. You know, if you're a Ford mechanic or Chevy mechanic or Toyota or Honda, Chrysler or whatever, if you're a mechanic in the automotive world, that is a highly coveted thing, the ASE certification. We don't have that in the tractor world. There's not enough volume of people to become tractor mechanics to justify having something like that. Now, what we do have in the tractor world is the OEMs, or original equipment manufacturers, put on factory training every year. The Deeres, Mahindras, Kubotas, AGCOs, New Holland, Case, whoever it is, puts on a factory training every year, and there is a certification that they bestow on the mechanic. He's a factory trained, or she is a factory trained mechanic from attending that school. Now, in my experience, what goes on in that school is actually you get trained on the new stuff. The dealer has to send somebody to get trained in order to maintain their warranty status, but what they get trained on is generally how to work on the newer tractors and newer equipment. And because the newer stuff has more computer stuff on it, more computer diagnostics, that's what they get trained on. But fixing their older stuff, that's assumed you already know that. So Phil, to answer your question, there's nothing in the tractor world where you get certified by an independent, not affiliated with any manufacturer organization. It's just not there, to my knowledge. If I'm wrong, let me know. So what you have to deal with is finding a dealership where they can work on equipment. And the problem with our world is, when I was getting this YouTube channel started back in 2017, I was doing some freelance writing for a couple of trade publications, and I interviewed a guy that worked at a tech school, and this is 2017, and I think a lot of it has already happened. It's continuing to happen. He told me then, within 10 years, 50% of all mechanics will be retiring. And so some of the best tractor mechanics I've ever known have already retired. They're not doing it anymore. So it's a real problem in our industry. And the bigger problem in our industry is attracting young people to get started as tractor mechanics. And the challenges in our industry are, number one, you kind of need to have a farm background or take a long learning curve to get into being a tractor technician. And the second problem is it's an environment that's not always real friendly. If you're a car mechanic, the chances of somebody bringing in a 50-year-old car to have it worked on, or bringing in something all covered with dust and dirt, or having something with a rat's nest in it, are pretty rare. So what you get in is a more or less a clean car that needs to be worked on. In the ag business, where I worked at the dealership, you might be working on a tractor one day, a hay baler the next day, maybe a skid loader or a backhoe the next day, and a lawnmower. I mean, we worked on all those different types of equipment, and they weren't always clean when they came in. And sometimes we had to go out and service them in the field. So that's a challenge. It's a more varied environment, working on a more mixed range of equipment. And one of the challenges we've always had in the tractor world is because the profit margins are not what they are in like the big truck world or the car world or the industrial world, the wages haven't been as good. So your local tractor dealer, his biggest issue, or in his top three, is finding and maintaining good technicians to work on equipment. And parts people as well. That's another problem, is finding good parts people, because the car world is a different world in terms of finding parts. A parts person at an equipment dealership has to have the same knowledge base as the technicians and know how to find the parts for the old stuff as well as the new stuff. So it's a real challenge. So, point of this video, if you're one of my viewers and you know a young person that would like to work with his hands or her hands and would like a real challenge, and what you get when you work on farm equipment, you get such a varied range of equipment and products within that equipment that you work on. If you can succeed in the farm equipment world, you can work on about anything, because you'll get experience in industrial equipment, you'll get experience in probably harvesting equipment and tractors and so on. So and maybe probably lawnmowers. So you'll get such a wide variety. If you want to move on later on to one of those industries, it'll give you more choices. You'll be more marketable. The other thing that is a selling feature for farm equipment, it's a plus and a minus. Farm equipment is really, really seasonal. The guys that work on automotive or work on big trucks, that business is usually spread out. Now, it's a little seasonal. People are driving their cars more and probably driving big trucks more in the in the warm part of the year. But in the farm equipment world, it's extremely seasonal. If you're in the hay baler country, you're probably doing most of your business in April, May, June, maybe early July, and you're working all the time. The advantage of that, if the dealership pays overtime, you'll get paid a lot of money by working all the time in those periods of the year. And if you want to be off during deer season, you can probably work that into your negotiation when you're taking the job. One of the best mechanics I ever hired, he told me coming in, he said, I'll work as many hours as you want me to every time of year except deer season. I want to be gone the 1st of November and I'll come back about the 15th of January. But I want to be off. I want to enjoy deer season. I want to go out and just stay in the deer woods. And we worked a deal to get him in, and he was one of the best mechanics we've hired. So if that's you, you might go into your tractor dealership and say, hey, I'll work as many hours as you want me to in harvest season and in the use season, but I want to be out hunting deer when that time comes. They'd probably work a deal with you. So it's a big problem right now finding seasoned technicians, seasoned parts people in the ag world. And if you know of anybody, you'd be doing your local farm equipment dealership a big favor and yourself by recommending those people for a hire. So Phil, to get back to your question, there's no certification program that all brands use that I know of that certifies mechanics. And in order to find the best mechanic, I've given this recommendation many times before. Here where I live, and in most small towns, we've got a cafe. They serve kind of greasy food. It's kind of bad for you. It's fairly cheap. If you go in there between 6:30 and 7 in the morning, there'll be a table of people, mostly men, and some of them will be wearing overalls. And if you go up to that table and maybe buy their coffee or buy their breakfast, it won't cost that much. In exchange for them telling you who's the best mechanic in the country, they'll tell you. And you can take their word to the bank, because they know. If I'm looking for the best plumber or the best electrician and I've just moved into an area, I go into that little cafe, find that table, and pal up with them, because they are a wealth of information about people you need to know to work on whatever you have at your homestead. And so that's what I would recommend, Phil. Don't worry about the factory certification. Worry about that table of people at the cafe, because they will know who to talk to. Thanks for watching.